Fear, treachery, bloodlust. These were once the most basic of instincts for every mammal. But these are also some of the most basic themes of war. The animals of the world, both predator and prey, have faced times of peace, working and living together in mostly harmony. This fell apart when the war broke out. No one knows who started it, but it was a joint effort of all mammals to end it. With the world torn asunder on the surface, most sought shelters in the burrows deep beneath the ground. This is the story of survival, both within and without. Deep below the surface, the residents of Burrow 76 have lived without any knowledge of the outside world. Within the burrow itself, residents are thriving. They all are healthy and safe. Everyone is happy. All but one. And this is her story. War. War never changes. Thousands of years ago, the world was divided into two major groups of animals. These were the predators, strong, fierce, dominating the top of the food chain. Then there were the prey, meek, frail. And while their numbers were great, they still cowered in fear of the predators. It was not the need to expand or battles over resources. It was simply a fight for their own survival. Over time, the species put away their claws and started to develop their minds. They created cities, new technologies, and drastically changed their way of life. This new life included the union of predator and prey, forging a peace that would exist for centuries, forever changing how the world of mammals would interact with each other. Unfortunately, evolution comes at a cost. Peace cannot exist without those whom oppose it. In the past, war was symbolized by the most basic of needs: food, shelter, reproduction. Predators killed to eat and fought to gain better hunting grounds. Prey foraged and sought shelter from those who would make a meal of them. Today, wars are fought over resources, land, and due to bigotry, hate and fear still live within the world. Even in great cities such as Zootopia, where peace and harmony are advocated, a place where anyone can be anything, there does still exist that primal urge that resides deep within every mammal. The urge to make prey turn against predator, predator shunned for simply being what they are. A place where fear still exists deep within the subconscious of everyone. It is because of this that war will never fade. War is inevitable. For the most basic need for war comes down to survival. And it is because of this that war never truly changes. For years there was growing unease in the world. As resources started to dwindle, many nations began to find ways to harness the natural resources of other countries. This caused violence to break out between the nations. And even as the World Peace Organization attempted to maintain trust and find ways to share resources, it didn't help quell the growing violence. Anonymous threats started to fall upon different nations. Rumors of prey uprising in Oxenberg, missing mammals in Slothrin, vicious predator attacks in cities around the world. The world was starting to break. The world changed when the first nuclear bomb went off. The Arctic nation of Slavabear was the first to demonstrate the devastation of a nuclear blast, detonating high in the air where its power could be seen for thousands of miles. Soon nations all over were creating their own weapons of mass destruction to protect themselves from the inevitable. In this age of fear, one group stepped up to bring peace to the minds of the masses. Burrow. Founded within Zootopia's Little Rodentia district, promised to keep mammals of all species safe, from the smallest mouse to the tallest giraffe. They designed the burrows, state-of-the-art underground shelters that can house hundreds of animals comfortably for decades. These high-tech shelters offered the world a shining light in the encroaching darkness. Combined with the technology efforts of Swineco, Leader, and Robotic Technologies, these burrows were built within record time. Many hoped that there would be no need for these shelters, but they were wrong. It is the year 3026 in the modern era. A thermonuclear explosive went off in Zootopia's tundra town. It was unexpected and caught the rest of the world by surprise. No one took credit for the detonation, but it didn't matter. Nations started firing off their own warheads at those they thought were responsible. The war only lasted a few hours. After the smoke had cleared, the world was reduced to ash. Many were able to make it into the safety of the burrows, but many more lost their lives that day. When the doors of Burrow 76 closed that fateful day, the residents were told they would reopen again in 30 years once the world above was safe again. But it is now the year 3228, and the doors are still sealed. Chapter 2. Welcome to Burrow 76.
Miss Springs, it's time to get up. Your test will begin shortly, and you must be prompt for once.
Morning. At least, I think it's morning. Time often seems abstract this far beneath the ground. When I was really young, my mother would often wake me up saying, "Good morning, sunshine." And I'd always ask her, how do we know it's morning if we can't see past the ceiling? And how do we know what the sun looks like if we've never seen it before? She always told me that I was the smartest bunny in the burrow. I just wish that everyone else could see me the way she did.
Miss Springs, I insist you stop daydreaming and get out of that bed. The overseer just relayed a message over my comms. She's coming here personally to make sure you cooperate this time.
I've been dreading this day. I knew that they were going to force me to take that damn test. I just didn't think they would send her to force me to take it. It was well over my date to take it. By a few years, actually. But I always managed to find a way to worm out of it. My first time, I pretended to be sick. And it did help there just happened to be a small, yet harmless contagion making its rounds. The next time, I just so happened to break my leg while helping Dr. Radigan. He wrote up an excuse and everything. All I had to do was promise to fix some of his worn-out equipment. Once I even managed to hack the test system and remove my examiner's identification from the test list. But last year was really the only time I missed for a good, genuine reason. The year she had passed. I always started to tear up when I thought about my mother. She was the only one who truly understood me. I wiped my tears off on my pillow before I turned towards the voice that kept disturbing me. Damn, this bed was comfortable. Okay, Onion, I'll get up. You don't have to use the shocker this time. I really don't know why I installed that thing anyways.
Finally, miss. The overseer will be here in 15 minutes. You should really get dressed. And I made you a nice hot bowl of carrot grits.
Boy, he was direct. I guess it's my fault for programming him like that. After my mother left, I had no one in my life. I didn't know my father, and honestly I don't think my mother even knew who he was. We often played guessing games as to who it could be. He has chestnut fur just like mine, I would point out. Look at him, he has ears on his head, just like you, my mother would joke. I don't think she ever did want to know. She was just happy with the two of us, and that's why I could never stand the void she left. So, I built a robot.
Miss Springs, she will be here in 5 minutes. Get up, get dressed, now!
I really should have given him a sense of humor. Or made him at least a bit more mellow. Or just not given him a voice at all. I slowly got out of my bed, slowly folding my blankets and took my time making them look nice. Onion just floated into the air, staring at me. If he had eyes, I'm sure he would be giving me the look, but I didn't care. Maybe if I took long enough, the overseer would just give up on waiting for me and leave me alone. That thought was short-lived when I heard 2 knocks on my door. She didn't even announce herself. She just walked right in.
Olivia Spring? You should have been ready by now,
she squeaked out in her small voice that suited her size.
You have 5 minutes to get dressed, and then you are coming with me.
I didn't say anything. I just nodded and went over to my dresser. I grabbed my Burrow jumpsuit and some clean undergarments and headed into the lavatory. I really hated the overseer. It wasn't because she was a rat, and that the rodent population outnumbered the bunny population 4-1. It was how most rodents tend to look down on the rabbits because of the population gap. It wasn't even her personally. When I was younger, my mother told me all about the fact that they were good friends, and that the overseer was really sweet and kind and always went out of her way to make every resident, rodent or rabbit, feel safe. It was her adamant adherence to Burrow policy that made me hate her. She said 5 minutes. I planned on making it 5 minutes. I took my time washing my fur before slowly slipping on my clothes. The entire time that test was on my mind. Many of the residents have a unique skill or talent. Some were natural chefs, while others seemed to be born into plant husbandry. I was one of the best at mechanical things. No, I am the best. Everyone knows that I can fix almost anything mechanical in nature. From a mouse's tiny watch to the most advanced pit bore. That test, however, didn't care. You could be the first doctor to create a magical cure-all, and you would still be assigned to the janitorial department. Everyone hated it. But once you were assigned your overseer-approved, Burrow-Tech-sanctioned career, it didn't matter. Here in Burrow 76, the overseer's word is law. Time's up, Spring. Let's go. Can I eat first? I always read that you should never take a test on an empty stomach. No, Springs. You have wasted enough time as it is. Well, I tried. I started to grab my tool belt when the overseer chimed in. Leave that there. Your robot stays, along with your pit bore. I know how clever you are, Springs, and you have evaded the test for far too long now. I will make sure you find no more excuses. I looked at Onion. He flashed a couple of lights and his round body bobbed up and down, slightly as if he was giving me a shrug. I looked back at him with the look that he knew all too well that said, "You're no help." I turned and followed the small animal, careful not to step on her tail as it swayed back and forth as she strode down the hallway. It was a quiet walk. I read enough murder mysteries that this felt like taking the long walk down death row. Only I never got to eat my last meal. Maybe I'll be lucky and some freak accident will kill me before I'm cleaning the kitchens for the rest of my life. Wishful thinking, Olivia. Wishful thinking. I didn't see many residents on my way to where I would meet my fate. Usually it was a bit livelier than this. Children running down the halls, Mr. Abernathy trying to unlock his quarters with a spatula. And typically I would be assaulted by the smells of fresh-baked carrot cake or the savory smell of Mindstone cooking. What time was it anyway? I never did look at my pip-board to get the time. I figured that I overslept like usual. After this, I think I'll go back to bed, since obviously it was way too early to be up. Wonder if the overseer would let me get a cup of coffee. Or 2. Or a whole carafe. We finally stopped at the doors to the classroom. Or rather, she stopped. I almost stepped on her. Well, if she were to be accidentally killed by my foot, maybe I could get another delay. I would say that I'm suffering from trauma from accidentally killing another living thing. They would buy that, right? Unfortunately, I won't be able to find out because my foot was planted on the ground as she opened the door and entered, signaling me to follow. She pointed towards a desk right in the front as she climbed a small ladder to the top of the larger instructor's desk. These seats were never comfortable. Stiff metal seat that attached to a large metal table with a carrot-shaped pen and some sheets of paper. Due to the size difference between rodents and rabbits, they typically had the larger desks in the back and the smaller ones elevated near the front. My desk had obviously been moved to accommodate me, especially since I noticed that no one else is here. A private event, just for me. Well, doesn't that make me feel special? Okay, Spring. This is how it will work. On your desk is the Career Aptitude Test, or CAT for short. This test will present you with 10 questions. You will answer all 10. There is no wrong answer, so just pick what feels right. To make sure that nothing happens to delay this test, I will be sitting here waiting for you to finish. I also will not be utilizing the terminal to grade the test, but rather I will use the physical grading materials, just in case you happen to mess around with anything. When the test is over, you will leave it on the table and I will escort you out. After that, you are free for the rest of the day. I will send you your results and your first day's assignment by this evening so you have plenty of time to prepare yourself. Do you understand all of that? I simply nodded. My head started to hurt, and my nose began to twitch rapidly. My fur was feeling matted. I was not ready. When the overseer told me to begin, I don't think I registered right away. I sat there for what felt like an eternity before the overseer snapped me out of it. I picked up my pen and turned over the first page. I read the first question to myself. While working in the science labs, a rather ghastly scientist comes up behind you and whispers into your ear, "How would you like me to put my dinglebob through your grumbo?" What is your response? My response. To what? I have no idea what I just read. I scanned it over and over and still had no idea what this thing was talking about. No wonder everyone gets a crap job after this. I don't think even the author of this test knew what he was typing. After looking at the selection of answers, I went with, just as long as you use quality phleb. That sounds like I know what I'm talking about, even if I had no idea. On to the next question. The next few seemed a bit more logical. What would I do if I found a lost child with a stolen item? How would I respond if I suddenly grew an extra limb? How would I use a virtual history chamber if chosen to test it, and so on? One of them made me chuckle with my response. The question read, Your grandmama invites you in for a cannoli, but you are surprised when she asks you to ice another Burrow resident. What do you do? Well, I have no idea what a cannoli is, but finding a bucket of ice and dumping it on a resident seemed like something I'd enjoy, especially if that resident was the overseer. Then I got to the last question. This had to be a joke, right? All it said was, who is the most important person in the Burrow? And the answer was the overseer. Every single answer. What is the sense of picking an answer if they were all the same? But at least I was done. I stood up and put my pen down on the desk and just stared at her. She asked if I was done, and I just nodded. I tried to talk as little as possible to her. Maybe she would feel guilty and just throw it away and let me do what I wanted to do. What I was good at doing. It was wishful thinking. She would never do that. Especially since it would be against every Burrow policy. She could take those policies and shove them up her tiny ass. After she escorted me out of the classroom and closed the door behind her, I went straight to my quarters. I passed a few rodents who looked like they had just gotten out of bed. It was still way too early for me. While I was trying to think about my bed awaiting me, I heard a small voice come from below me. "Olivia, you look well." I looked down and saw I was mere inches from stepping on him. No wonder some of them seemed to resent us rabbits. We're like clumsy giants to them. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. I'm really tired. I hate being up this early. What time is it anyway? Oh, it's no problem, my dear. It's just about 6:30 in the morning. I was kind of surprised to see you up this early, to be honest. Yeah, I finally got around to taking my cat. I don't think I could have said that with any more spite in my tone. Well then, my dear, I'll be happy to see what becomes of that. I know you're very handy with your tools, and I'm sure you'll get your dream career just as I did. And now then, breakfast is calling for me. Go home, get some rest. That test can be such a dreary thing to some. I faked the best smile I could before continuing back to my quarters. When I got back, Onion greeted me with as much gusto as he could.
Welcome home, miss. I took the liberty of procuring a fresh slice of carrot cake for you from the cafeteria.
The cake looked delicious, but I just wanted to lie down. I stripped off my jumpsuit and crashed onto my bed, wearing nothing but my panties. I really hated tight-fitting clothes like that jumpsuit. But I didn't have much other clothing. Nothing ever really felt like it suited me better. Onion must have noticed that I was not in the mood to talk, so he just went on busying himself with cleaning up my abandoned clothing. I closed my eyes and tried to push everything out of my head. I just wanted to sleep. And maybe I'll wake up and everything will be better. Maybe Mr. Feldwick was right, and I'll get my dream career. I mean, even the overseer could see how well the Burrow would be if I was in charge of maintenance. Isn't that the point of the overseer, to make sure that both the Burrow and its residents are kept well and happy? But I yawned once before falling asleep.
Miss! Wake up! Twice in one day must be some kind of record.
What is it, Onion? I was having the nicest dream.
The overseer just conned me your results. I took the liberty of sending them to your Pip-Boy. You should read it.
Results? Already? How long did I sleep? I jumped up as I remembered bits of my dream. I was the lead technician of the Burrow. Everything was running smoother than even when it first opened. And in my dream, the Burrow finally opened, and the high-ranking members of Burrow Tech were the first to give us the good news. The world was healed, and we were free to leave and live out our lives on the surface. After doing an inspection of the Burrow, he was beyond impressed and instantly hired me on to be the chief engineer at Burrow Tech. I got my dream job at last. The excitement filled me with energy, and I grabbed my Pip-Boy, opened it up at the internal messaging program. Springs, Olivia, 20, female, rabbit. On behalf of Burrow 76's overseer and by command of Burrow Tech, the world's leading in mammal safety, we do present the results of the carefully crafted career aptitude test. These results, which will be dutifully enforced by your current overseer, entitle you not only to the luxuries that the career provides, but also allows you to take part in the betterment of the Burrow and its residents. Congratulations! You have been selected to become Burrow 76's newest